Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. My name is Dr. Sarah Gordon. I'm the founder and the host of the show. And as you can see, today I am joined with a guest. I have,
Hello.
I have Maria Simone on the show with me. And Maria, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Sarah. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
You know what? I really am too. I'm going to go through your bio. I really want our listeners to understand who I have on the show today. I'm just really excited to learn from you. You come across to me as just a strong female voice that we can learn from endurance, but we can then also just learn from it just in a broader sense too. So I'm really excited to have you on.
Awesome.
So to start, Maria is the founder and the head coach of a platform called No Limits Endurance Coaching. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means to her and how she found her way into endurance sport. Also, Maria, and once we'll talk about how you're a leading voice in the holistic endurance coaching field and what that actually means, holistic endurance coaching. So I want to learn about that. But what we're going to specifically focus on today, and Maria and I had a phone call prior to this episode. I always do that with my guests to kind of talk about, what do you want to talk about on the show? What do you think would be an important message to get out there on our platform? So we're going to focus on training camps. Maria, through No Limits Endurance Coaching and her team, they hold training camps. And I feel like it's a really interesting conversation, not only from an athlete's perspective, but from a coach's perspective and that relationship between both.
Mhm.
And I feel like, we're going to talk about in terms of like sport and the sport of triathlon and endurance. But I really, as we talk about it, I want our listeners to think about training camp can be so many things. It can be putting yourself in a community of like-minded people to grow and to learn, right? Not just going through things on your own or taking your own journey with it, but trusting a sense of community to grow. And I think that's the value in this conversation today.
Mm.
So looking forward to having that with you. Before we get started, and before we started to record, I said to Maria, I really want to go through your list of accomplishments. I know you have to sit there quietly and listen to all this talk in the beginning of this episode, but it's so important for my listeners to understand who you are and how you got here. Okay? So I'm just going to start out by saying Maria has her PhD, right? She has a PhD in communication from Temple University.
Mhm.
So I love that connection that you and I have when I talk about the PhD journey. Like, I feel like you get it. You
Mhm.
mentioned to me it's kind of where it all started. And
Mhm.
I want to hear about that too today. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. She's also a USA Triathlon Level 3 coach. It takes a lot of work to get to Level 3. There's just less than 50 in the United States. Okay. So it's an honor to be a USA Triathlon Level 3 coach. She's also has a certification with, oh gosh, I practiced it like 3 times. Can you help me?
With
US,
UESCO, right? So the United Endurance Sports Coaching Academy.
yes.
Yeah.
One of the only certifications for ultra endurance running.
Mhm.
She also has a triathlon, USA Triathlon Level 1 Para Triathlon certification. I love that. Short course and youth and junior.
Mhm.
Okay. Level 2 cycling certification, USA Cycling. Master Swimming Level 1 certified coach. Training Peaks Level 2 accredited coach, which is a platform for working with your athletes and coaching through I guess a virtual platform.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. She's a member of the USA Triathlon National Coaching Committee on the Advisory Board for Coaching Education.
Mhm.
Awards USA Triathlon Coach Educator of the Year.
Mhm.
Outspoken Women in Triathlon Coach of the Year.
Mhm.
You're amazing. I'm really grateful that you're
I
going to
think
spend.
everyone's getting bored now.
Yeah, but I got to get through just a couple. I'm so grateful you're here with us today. I'm so excited. Okay. It's really important to talk about your athletic achievements because we don't have somebody here who just goes after the education. She puts in practice what she learns, okay? Practice what you preach,
Hmm.
right? Two-time double anvil, double Ironman distance, 281.2-mile champion.
Hmm.
I don't know if I can say this word on my podcast. You're a bad
A bad donkey.
a bad donkey. There you go. Ironman World Champion, Kona, qualifier and finisher. Multiple 140.6 Ironman's age group podium finishes. Multiple age group podium finishes at the 70.3 distance, which is the half Ironman distance. Multiple qualifier for USAT National Age Group Championships. Multiple time qualifier for USAT All American. It's important to, I know it's annoying, it's getting annoying for you, but it's important because you've been at it for a while and you should be recognized. So I'm almost
And
done, I promise.
I think everyone listening is like, oh, she's old. Got
No,
it.
you're young and you're beautiful and you look great. Multiple time Ironman Gold all world athlete, top 1% of age group. Running in 2025, you did the Breck Marathon, first in age group, fourth overall female, 10th overall. 2024, Kuyamaka,
Kuyamaka. Yeah.
100K. It goes on, it goes on, it goes on. Boston Marathon qualifier. I mean, here's my question to you. Where did it, you say it started at the PhD, but where did all this start? I mean, you're at a level now, you don't get to this level overnight. It
Mhm.
must have started many years ago. Tell us how it started.
Yeah. So sport definitely started high school.
Okay.
So I don't know how quickly you want me to get into some of the details, but I had like a lot of young girls at the time, my age, I had an eating disorder that developed in seventh grade. Um, I was a meaty young child, I guess, but not like looking back in hindsight, certainly nothing, but
Right.
the teasing, all that kind of stuff, developed some pretty destructive habits in grade school or middle school or junior high or whatever we want to call it, seventh and eighth grade. And then when I started high school, my high school had a crew team, and I heard that they worked out a lot. So my little ED brain was like, I'm going to do that sport so that I can stay skinny.
Okay.
Um, and what happened is crew and the two coaches that led that crew program, they literally saved my life.
Oh,
Because I think when I started high school, I was probably like in and around 5 foot tall. Still growing a little bit, but I'm 5'3", so there wasn't much more to go. But I was probably like 85 pounds, so I was
oh,
mini.
tiny.
To the point where my friends were worried about me, like trying to anyway, I could tell some funny stories on that. But anyway, crew saved my life is really what it boils down to. And because I remember going to the tryouts. Well, they weren't really tryouts. It was just like kind of like a come and they had us do different tests. Like there was a run test and there was a jump test and then there was a bench press. There was these so you had to lay over like a board and you had to pull and the whole point was they had to hear the bar hit the wood. And that became like a very ritualistic thing in our weightlifting. To this day, I really like to jam weights against things just because that was kind of like what we did. But all the women, well, I keep saying women, we were girls. All of us were under 18. All the girls, I'm watching all the girls ahead of me. They're doing 10, 15, 20. The strongest among them were into the 30s of how many of these bench pulls they could
Hmm.
do. Um, I did four and barely made, I couldn't even get the fourth one to hit the
Okay.
the wood. And the coach at the time said, "Do you want a coxswain?" And the coxswain is the person at the front of the boat that steers it. You don't row. You're just like steering the boat and you're motivating the athletes and that kind of stuff. And I was like, "No, I'm here to row." And he's like, "You got to get stronger." And whether he knew or he didn't, he said to me, he's like, "You got to beef up, girl. You got to get stronger." And in my little brain, I'm not going to say that I was cured overnight. I certainly was not. But in my little 13-year-old brain, I thought to myself, I think it was the first time I started to have those glimmers of, I think I care about being stronger more than I care about being skinny.
I
And
love that.
over the course of those 4 years, that was the head coach, and then the coach that I directly worked with on the lightweight eight, because I was just so tiny. Like I was not big enough to be on the vart. Even when I beefed up, I was still 5'3". Like there's no changing my height. But those two coaches, I mean, they just really treated us to be strong women. It was always about like how strong can you be? And I think like looking back, I am so glad that I went into crew rather than like track because I think track may not have had that same effect. And I should say ball sports were never an option because I cannot catch balls, I cannot throw balls, I cannot hit balls. I do not follow sports with balls. So it was always going to be some kind of sport that didn't have any sort of ball in it.
You-
So crew it was,
you-
but that's where it started. That's a really long story. I'm not sure if you
no,
wanted all
no, I
that.
love
Feel free
that.
to edit it.
No, 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 no. I love that story. There's a couple of things I just want to mention before I move on to the next question. One, or ask you, do you think that the strength that the crew coach taught you as you started to develop physical strength, it also started to impact mental strength?
No question. No question.
So, okay.
The coach, like my direct coach, maybe he'll listen to this when I share it on social because he is really, we're still friends, we still connect. But he I don't know. There, like I listen to sometimes to women talk about their high school and their college experiences, and we were never treated like little girls. We were always expected to show up for ourselves, to be strong. So,
Oh,
and I think for him, there was so much of the mental side that he taught us
mhm.
that it really permeates into how I coach today. And I think that's kind of where like the holistic piece of it comes, because for me, it's not just about giving my athletes a training program, it's an entire system
Mhm.
of success. And I think those early years for me in coaching, I wish that for every young boy and young girl to have that kind of experience in sport. I know not everybody does. I just got done reading the Mary Cain book, like
What is it
horrifying.
called?
Mary Cain's new book. This isn't about running. It's horrifying. But I wish more people would have experiences like I had because it sport changed my life. So that's kind of really where it started. I think at first it saved my life, and then it really created a trajectory for me to feel like I can try anything if I want to. And it was okay to fail. We learned that as young crew
Amazing.
because we didn't always win. We were very good, but we didn't always win. We lost, and we were never punished or yelled at for losing. It was always like, what did we learn? What are we going to do next time? So those experiences were so formative for me that I wish that for everyone, and it certainly permeates how I coach, or at least I hope it does
That's
permeate how I
amazing.
coach. Yeah.
I love starting this conversation there.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I know it's kind of
And
far afield, but
no, no,
those two men were amazing. They
no,
were
it's
just amazing
great.
coaches.
It's
Yeah.
great. It shows that why coaches are so important,
They
right?
are
They have the
vital.
opportunity to work with young people and change their lives in so many different ways. So
Yeah.
people who are
Yeah.
really passionate about coaching, they recognize that responsibility. And they, like you said, it saved your life and then it changed your life. I also
Hmm.
want to say that I think you and I are like we're both in our 50s. You're a little bit younger, a lot younger than me. You're early 50s, I'm late 50s. But I think
Once you hit 50, Sarah, is there really like a lot?
I'm
Like,
getting
come
close
on.
to, well, I'm getting close to 60, but my point is like I think that we grew up in a time that I just think it's important to say this and as we frame our conversation today, I don't think women were expected to be strong.
No.
We weren't in the weight room lifting weights. I always loved it myself. I gravitated towards it myself. But I feel like women in sports, young girls in sports, it was just kind of evolving, right?
Mhm.
In the 70s and early 80s. And I also think that we had a lot of pressure through things like Shape magazine
Yep.
to look. I don't know if people remember Shape magazine. We had a
I
lot of
certainly do.
pressure.
I
We had a lot
certainly
of
do.
pressure to be thin.
And like
Spa Lady,
unhealthily thin.
Jane,
Like,
Jane Fonda. It was just a
mhm,
lot of pressure on women to be thin and not necessarily strong. So
right.
I love that you started this conversation this way because I think this conversation is about building confidence through
Hmm.
training camps. And so
Yeah.
this was excellent. So your coach, do you want to say his name?
Yeah, sure. So my direct coach was Joe Haney,
Joe Heaney.
and the head coach was Bob White, and
All
they
right.
were very, I would say they were very much a unit. Like, even though Bob was kind of, well, I always just call him Mr. White, and I remember I got older, he's like, please, for the love of God, call me Bob.
I know,
Um,
but it's hard to lose that, right?
it really, especially
Even
when
as
it's
an
like somebody
adult.
yeah, you respect them so much,
Yeah,
it's but they really were such a great unit, and they were so like from my standpoint, outside looking in, they just seemed so unified. They were so supportive. It was just
great.
such a positive experience for
It's
me it truly, you can look back on your life at our age, of course, and see like where the pivot points are.
yes.
The choice to join crew, even though was not a healthy, I didn't have a healthy reason for joining crew, turned into one of the most important pivot points in my life. I don't think anything would have happened the way it did after if it wasn't for crew.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. And I guess that gave you the confidence to then go on and get your PhD.
Yeah, sort of. It's such a it felt like it was such a like a weird journey. I th Before we got on the call, I was telling you, I don't come from a lot of wealth. So for me, it was state schools for my undergraduate. I knew I kind of wanted to get my master's. But I had to take a break in between undergraduate and master's because I had to make money. And then I went back and got my master's, and then I took another break. And at the end of getting my master's, I did not think I was going to go on and get my PhD because I don't know. I just felt like it's going to cost so much money. It's going to
Yeah.
take so much time, all this kind of stuff. But 5 years went by, and, I was teaching as an adjunct for my former undergraduate school, which again, awesome. What a great experience I had. Small classes. If I walk the halls right now, I don't know if any of my professors will still be there, but I feel like when I went back to teach, they all knew who I was still. Hey Maria, how you do? So just that experience was really so enriching. But then I knew I wanted to go back and get my PhD, and I wanted to teach. I really loved being in the classroom, and I just wanted to do that. And I had been working in advertising, and I just had to get out. It was terrible. It wasn't for me. I mean, the people I worked with were great. It just, the industry was just not, it was just not for me. So that's what finally encouraged me to go back. And I'm so glad I picked Temple. At that time, I was already married. We had a house. So I was a little bit constrained geographically. And I only applied to Temple. I lived in New Jersey, decided not to apply to Penn. I realized pretty quickly it was not going to be a culture fit for me.
Mhm.
But Temple was an amazing culture fit. I just loved it. I just loved the rougher Philadelphia cousin. It was just such a great school to go to. My professors were amazing. So it was a good experience. But I do think, again, going back to the relationship between sport and life, I just
Right.
think those early experiences taught me um, it's okay to take risks. It's okay to fail. It's also really important to have goals. I've always been a fairly goal-directed person. Um, Even if the goals vary a little bit in their nature. And they certainly have as I've gotten older. The things I care about now are more about experience than performance. So I don't really compete to perform that much anymore. If it happens, that's fun too, but it's not why I sign up for races anymore. It's more about experiences. But yeah.
I know when we first talked several months ago, I took notes in that call, and
Hmm.
you said some things that I wrote down. I'm just gonna read them
Okay.
and think about them, and then we'll transition into no limits endurance and how that was
Okay.
born. Okay, you said things like believe before you achieve.
Hmm.
Okay, I love that, and I can talk about that in a theoretical framework in terms of self-efficacy theory.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Believe in yourself. before you achieve. Develop short and long-term goals, emphasize process over outcome.
Yep.
Set big dreams. Do the hard work to make those dreams a reality. No shortcuts in the endurance journey.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that actually I wrote down twice because I was like, that's so good. And you wrote, and then also another note I had was set big goals outside of our comfort zone, push the limit of our body to learn about life.
Yep.
I love it. So, when did No Limits Endurance, when was that born and what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Um, I guess, are you asking specifically about my business or the philosophy?
Probably both, if
Okay.
you don't mind. I don't want to wear you out, but I just want to learn.
No.
And
No,
we
well,
haven't got,
I don't want to turn this into an advertisement,
no,
for
no,
your
no, this is
listeners.
your
So,
platform. Just shine. It's fine. And then we'll get to training camps.
yeah. So I think, I mean, I think some of what we've talked about already is sort of demonstrating kind of that foundational piece of what that no limits idea means to me.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously there are some limits, right? Like I am never going to be an Olympian. Like I'm not that good. Right? So there's that. However, for me, what no limits means, it's really about that willingness to set a goal that's well outside of what you can achieve today and then do that work to make that goal happen. So obviously, if we talk about the PhD journey, right? Starting that, I remember being so nervous my first day because I was like, I bet everyone else in my class went to fancy schools. And so far, I've only gone to no-name state schools, and everyone's going to be so much smarter than me. And I haven't read all of these things that these people have read, and I don't have money. Like, and what I found out was like, it really didn't matter. It really like it was the culture there was not about where you came from. It was about where are we going to go. And so, I think starting that PhD journey, I was very scared. I didn't know if I'd be able to do it. Starting the writing of the dissertation, God bless it. Even though by like that point I had more confidence, I was like, oh my God, how does this thing get written? Like what happens?
I get
And will the
it.
committee approve it? That's the more important piece of it. But so that's, I mean, I think one example of that. But then, obviously in sport, setting goals that are outside of where you are today and then doing the work to get there. I don't love shortcuts in anything. I think that shortchanges the entire point of doing anything worth doing. Why, like, and I see it, right? Like on social media when people post things like, I didn't do any training and I did this race. And I'm like, well, that's great, but you missed the point. The
Yeah.
point is the actual training. It's the race is just, I mean, yeah, it's fun. It's a celebration. The races are hard, of course, but like the point is, what did you learn in the 6 to 12 months of training that you did to get to that race?
Hmm.
That's the point. So I think for me, that no limits ethic is really just that. From a sport standpoint, it really is that idea of like just pushing the limits of my body to learn about life because if you go out and you're pushing yourself, you're going to learn something. Every day can be a teacher. You just have to be ready to listen to the lessons. And I mean, and then in terms of the business name, I remember and I'm so sad. I was doing a mentor session with a newer coach a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about like trying to come up with a name for his business. And I'm like, I remember my husband and I at our kitchen, like little um table. I'll just do whatever. We're sitting at a kitchen table and we had a loose leaf piece of paper and we were, doodling and writing names. And he wrote, I think it was him that wrote no limits. And I was like, that's it. We're done. I wish I had that piece of paper to this day. And I am
Oh,
so sad that I didn't keep it. I'm not a pack rat, so it's not surprising that I didn't keep it. Like I'm just not like that. But I just remember being like, that's it. That encapsulates this whole idea of like setting a big goal, big dream, and then doing the work to make it
to
happen.
get there.
Um,
The
for
journey.
yourself. Yeah, it's all about the journey.
It's
And
the
I
journey.
think when you do that, even if you fail in the achievement of the goal, so you didn't achieve X thing or you didn't
You
do
learn.
X thing,
Mhm.
it's still the no limits philosophy
Right.
because you put yourself out there. And
Mhm.
I don't think there's ever failure unless you quit. You quit trying. If you quit trying, then yeah, that's probably failure. But if you continue to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, if you continue to maintain that growth mindset, you're not failing. You're not failing. You're finding meaning.
Amen.
Amen.
I mean, that's what this platform is all about. That's why
Yep.
I love having guests such as yourself on the show because I think that we all, we're all on a journey and we're all at different stages of that journey.
Yep.
And sometimes we have hard things in our lives that we have to overcome. Some we choose to put ourselves in, some we don't.
Yeah.
And I having voices such as yourself on the show, it helps teach people. If you take the time to listen and learn from Maria, you understand that there's so much growth that can happen in hard times. So you don't want to give up. You don't we all get discouraged, right? But we learn so much in it. And that's exactly how this whole platform was born because I learned those lessons too on my PhD journey. So I
Yep.
love everything you say. I wasn't trying to oversimplify when I said amen, but I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a platform to teach people those things, which is a great segue into training camps. So
Yeah.
even putting yourself in a PhD program when you start to, if we were when we play the comparative game, it's tough. But if we
Mhm.
go into these communities with a mindset that we're going to learn and we're going to just embrace it, whether we do great or not, we're going to be like a sponge and just learn. It can be so empowering. So
Yeah.
I think the training camp must be kind of that same experience. So I want to share with our listeners what a training camp is, what you guys offer as far as training camps, and what can we learn in them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if I understand correctly, it's just like a basic overview of
Yeah,
training.
let's just
Yeah.
start with what a training camp is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think depending on the organization you do a training camp with, the specifics are going to vary, but uh, generally speaking, a training camp is a concentrated period of time, anywhere from 2 days to maybe even a week, with a group of other like-minded athletes, typically led by coaches, with specific workouts that are targeted to achieve something, right? So
Okay.
it's either long course for long course. So we do, just to give more specific examples, we do two primary training camps, one for triathletes and one for ultra runners, trail runners. The triathlon training camp, I ran a successful training camp in Lake Placid, New York for about 10 years. Um, but I moved to Colorado, and while we still did continue the training camp when I moved, it got harder and harder for me to travel to Lake Placid. And also after 10 years, for me, I wanted to try something new and push myself again, right?
Right.
Not that I didn't love the Lake Placid camp, I totally do. I'm not saying we'll never do it again because it was fun, it was successful. But for me personally as a coach, I wanted to do something different and push myself as a coach a little bit outside of what I'm comfortable with because I'd gotten like plug and play for the Lake Placid camp. Uh,
Hmm.
and so we chose to this year do a collaborative camp with another coaching outfit called Sonic Endurance. And we collaborated together to do a training camp in Tucson this year. And super scared because it's brand new. I had myself, Stacy, who owns Sonic Endurance, she had been to Tucson multiple times. So she was great on the intel for the routes, but I had never even been to Tucson. So I'm like, what am I doing? I'm having a camp at a place I've never been. So I went early. I drove all around, but it was great. And so obviously there's swims in Tucson. It's pool swims. In Lake Placid, we did open water swims, and then there's bike. We did two bikes and then two runs. This year in Tucson, it was 105 degrees, so we did have there was a freak heat wave, which is supposed to be like 70s in March. It was 100 and something. So we had to adjust a bit on the fly. But that was good too, right? That was all part of
Learn,
me
right.
really sharpening my tools as a coach, my quick thinking, Stacy's quick thinking, working together. Like our collaboration was so successful. Like we were so in sync like the whole time, which was great.
That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah, it made it a lot of fun. So that's
What,
one. And then
when
and
was
then
that camp? When
it was
was it?
in March.
Oh,
Yeah.
March.
And
You said that. Yeah, you said
yep.
March.
Yep.
Yep.
And we'll do it again this March because, uh I gotta perfect it before I move on.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's nice. I mean, it was just and in this the Tucson camp was really focused on skills, true one to like true personal coaching. So we had four coaches and 12 athletes. We'll max that camp out at 20. It's not uncommon for a first year camp to not be full. But we really want it to be a very low coach to athlete ratio so that we can truly coach the people who come. So we had clinics every day. And then we had also had like endurance focused workouts. So
That's
we would
amazing.
do like a swim skill clinic, and then we do a swim workout, and then a bike skill clinic, and then a bike workout.
Hmm.
And then same thing for the run. So, but it was all mostly endurance focused because of the time of year. People are still kind of working on those
Yeah.
building that
Building.
endurance
Hmm.
foundation. Um, but the Lake Placid camp was a lot more focused on the Lake Placid Ironman or hilly Ironmans, right? So that one was more about get how many hills can we do in 4 days?
Wow.
Although all of my camps tend to have a clinic element. So even the Lake Placid camp, we had a 2 day option and a 4 day option. If you came to the 4 day option, you got the clinics. So because we do the clinics first and then we do some workouts after. But I like the educator in me is too strong. So all the camps are going to have some kind of educational focus. And then at night, we eat dinner together and we usually do some kind of educational presentation.
That's
The
cool.
topic on the educational presentations typically are based on like when people register for my camps, I always ask the question, what topics do you want us to talk about? And then I just use that to craft to basically craft the presentations. And I try to touch on everything between the clinics and the nightly presentations. I try to touch on everything everybody wants to hear about. And if not, we always have open Q&As. And because
Hmm.
the camps are tiny, the athlete, and like even our Lake Placid camp, we never sold over 25. And I usually have, because that most of my coaches are East Coast, we'd have like seven coaches there for 25, for 25 athletes.
That
So
sounds so
very,
fun.
yeah, oh my God. I feel like it was just as much fun for the coaches as it is
The
for the
athletes.
athletes. So it's a good
What,
opportunity for my staff and I to see each other too, because we don't get to see each other either. So
how many people do you have on your your coaching staff?
there's seven of us.
Seven. You're the head coach. You have seven.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
Um,
And I like
really?
it there. I'm not like that's my number. I feel like
Mhm.
that's my number. My rule has always been if I do not know all of the athletes on the team, at least by their first name and generally what they're racing, we're too big.
Too big.
Um, so
Wow.
that's kind of been my rule.
You're remarkable.
I don't know
Not to
about
make
that.
you feel uncomfortable, but you
I'm
are.
not the only one that does this,
I
to be
know, but
clear.
I'm really impressed. What's the second training camp?
The second training camp, we're doing an trail running focused training camp out here in Colorado, in one of my most favorite places to run in Buena Vista, Colorado, which is overlooking the Collegiate Range, which is a series of 14ers that are named after colleges. So
Hmm.
Harvard, Princeton, Yale, uh, and then well, there's a bunch of them. It's the Sawatch Range, and when you're in the valley in Buena, you can just see all these
Hmm.
gray giants. So it's cool. Yeah.
Um,
And so that'll be a similar kind of focus. That we have 10 runners, and we'll have three staff. It'll be me, my husband, and then one of our team members. Um, and we might also, my other coach might be coming as well. So there might be four of us for that. And then it'll be the same kind of thing. We'll do a pretty epic big vertical day for the runners, and then we'll do a longer run on another day. Still plenty of vertical because you're in the mountains, but not quite as much as the first day. The first day is more like climbing mountain, and then the second day is more like, oh, we might run a bit today. So yeah.
I feel like if somebody's listening today and they never thought about like doing a a camp or a trail run.
Yeah.
After listening to you and you say it with such like joy in your face, like, I want to be a trail runner. Let's go. I'm going to do
Oh man,
vertical runs.
trails are my first, second, and third love. They really, I mean, like
It's amazing. It's
I
amazing.
enjoyed my time in triathlon, but I never left the trails. It just was always my first, second, and third love, no question.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this, the camps. And at the end, we're going to give your contact information. So if
Okay.
people want to find out about your camps or want to reach
Sure.
out to you, we're going to give them that opportunity to have that information. I'll also
Sure.
put it in my, summaries for the podcast. But so why camps? Why are they so important?
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you observe?
Yeah, so I think, and I could talk from both the coach and the athlete
Okay.
perspective, because obviously as an athlete, I've been to camps as well and can
Hmm.
talk about well, and also just from a coaching perspective, watching what happens to athletes. But I think from a coaching perspective, one thing I really like about training camps is when my athletes can actually come and I can see them. I do most of my coaching remotely. Even with my athletes who are more local to me, we're still mostly remote because busy adults trying to find a unique time for 10 humans to get together and work out for an hour. I wish you all the best with that, with those. I mean, we accomplish it every so often. Once a month we might be able to accomplish it, but it's hard. So I love training camps for that reason. Well, one of those reasons. My athletes can come, I can see them, I can get eyes on, I can check aspects of form, I can check how their emotional regulation is. I can see whether or not they are fueling and hydrating the way they've been telling me they're fueling and hydrating because now
Hmm.
I'm watching them. And I just think it's from a coaching perspective, it's nice to be able to see my people.
Hmm.
The other thing too is it's fun to be in person, right? It's fun to coach. It's fun to stand on a pool deck and give people tips. It's fun to help sag people, especially like, in the Tucson camp, we do Mount Lemon and we had an aid station set up about halfway up the climb. And it was just, I love to see people suffer. Like I really enjoy it.
In
And
a good way, in a
when I say
challenging way. Yeah.
yeah, when I say suffer, I mean like exertional discomfort.
Right.
I just feel like humans are at their best when they're really pushing. So
Mhm.
I mean, I really enjoy that process, and I like being a steward for people on that journey. And I think in training camps you can do that. Um, you can also, I think, help athletes see things about themselves that maybe they don't see in their day-to-day training because they're by themselves training too, right? Even if
Hmm.
they're training with friends, they're not necessarily getting that outside feedback that might be helping them to improve a bit. So I think being there to be able to support people on their journey to whatever their goals are really fun. I also love logistics, huge fan of spreadsheets. Love schedules. I remember being a little girl and like getting notebooks and pretending like I was a teacher and making schedules and creating lists, and training camps allow you to do all that kind of stuff. I can even like pop out the label maker if I want to. It's just it's a great opportunity for the logistics systems management side of me to come out and play. And it's just a lot of fun. You go somewhere new, it takes you out of your own routine, which is always good. So I like that from a professional standpoint. And then, of course, things happen in training camps. So you have to be able to think pretty quickly, which I think from a coaching perspective keeps me sharp. So if I'm showing up and I'm having to solve problems in real time for 4 days in a row, that just keeps me so much sharper when I do a 1 day swim clinic, right?
Hmm.
I become better at that because I've done this bigger event. And then it also gives me points of discussion after the camp with my athletes, right? Like, so, hey, at camp, I noticed this. Let's work on this.
Hmm.
This is a trajectory that we can kind of take and work on. And you can do it in ways that you don't always normally get to do. And I just think you deepen connections, right? You're sharing meals with people, you're having off the cuff conversations about things. Funny things are happening in camp, like funny things happen. Like things go off the rails sometimes, and like so you just create I think a much stronger bond between yourself and the athlete, which of course that relationship for your athletes to succeed, that coach athlete relationship is just it's central. to their success, as I learned when I was 13.
Yeah, no,
So,
I love that. So my dissertation research, I did exploring the exercise motivations and perspectives of successful aging with older triathletes, 65 and older. And one of the main, it was a mixed method study, and so I did a
yep.
quantitative and qualitative. But one of the major themes that came out of both phases of the study was sense of community
Hmm.
and how impactful that was to feel a kind of part of something like that. And so I think that we do live in an age of virtual training and, we haven't met each other in person. We're able to have this through virtual. Like there's a lot of benefits to it, but I
Sure.
think that it can never fully replace what the value of what we get in person in the human
Agreed.
experience. So to me, I think like that would be like a value of a training camp.
Hmm.
However, how do you get somebody? Because I would love to come to one,
Yeah,
really, and we're going to talk, but
you're invited.
thank you. But how do you get there when you lack confidence?
Yeah.
And how do you f find your, let's call it participants? Maybe they're all athletes. I don't know, everybody's at different stages, but let's just say participants in camps, okay?
Yeah.
How do you overcome fear and how do you watch people grow in that experience?
Yeah. This is, I think, the central piece of what is so valuable on the athlete side for coming to camp. Um, Generally, I like to host camps that are going to set athletes up for some kind of transformative experience.
Hmm.
Now, uh, I don't necessarily mean transformative in terms of like this existential change, right?
Mhm.
But like transformative in the sense of like, huh, 4 days ago, I didn't think I could do X.
Hmm.
Now, not only did I do X, but I added Y and Z, and aren't I surprised? Like that's how I
Yeah.
want camp to end for people. So to your point, I do think there is a lot of hesitancy to sign up for camps because of a compare and despair mentality.
Okay.
Um, this is one of the reasons why I absolutely loathe apps that track training in a social environment. I don't want to name the brand. I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. But
Most
because
of
I
us
don't
are
want to,
on it.
yeah, most of us are, yeah, I am not. You will never find me there. But I just think it leads to this idea of like, well, I don't belong there because Susie's doing X and I could never do X. So I shouldn't even bother to go to this camp. Or I shouldn't even bother to try XYZ or whatever it is. So I do think probably one of the biggest barriers to athletes coming to camp, besides cost, because it does cost, right? You got to
Right.
get there, you got to pay for the camp, you got to pay for lodging. Like it's not an insignificant cost in a sport like triathlon, for example, that is already kind of
Kind of
really
expensive.
expensive.
Yeah.
Or it can be. It can be. It doesn't have to be. You can get out there on a Huffy bike still. There's nobody stopping you. But of course,
Wait, what kind of bike?
like a Huffy, you know,
A
the little
Huffy. I like that.
like the bikes
Okay.
we used to ride when we were kids, Sarah.
Yeah, I know. A cruiser, a Land
Like a
Cruiser.
Schwinn.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
did
even
it.
make.
I have a funny story about a Schwinn. I did a triathlon. I was like early 20s, long time ago. It was an Olympic distance, the
Yeah.
Reston Triathlon. Anybody's listening, they know the Reston Triathlon, Reston, Virginia.
Yep.
And I showed up with my twin. That thing was like a tank. The thing was so heavy. I remember going up the hill. It's like, this bike stinks. I hate this bike.
But you did it. But
I
you
did,
did it.
and I had a lot
And
of fun, but my
yeah,
legs were so beat up by the time I
yeah,
got off it.
yeah,
It's like, I
yeah,
gotta go
yeah,
run 6 miles. But
yeah.
yeah, I'll never forget. It was that Schwinn. It was a cool looking bike, but yeah, it was not meant for
It was not
hills.
meant for triathlon.
No, it was so heavy. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Okay.
that's funny.
Well,
But yeah, but I
but
guess to get
yeah,
back to the point of like
yeah.
how do you get over that obstacle? I think it is tricky. You know, I do think some of that is on my end or the organizer's end to create on the one hand, you know, when you're introduced, because last year was our in all girl Tucson camp, right? So I don't have any
Hmm.
word of mouth for that yet. I have word of mouth. People have come to the Lake Placid camps and they knew those were fun. So they were making a jump like, well, this should also be fun. But I think part of it is also on my end and the language that I'm using to describe what the camp's about, who's welcome, which is everybody, by the way, at our camps. I will always have a everyone welcome kind of approach. That being said, you have to be prepared for the workouts, right? So
Yeah.
we typically tell
Some
people like,
base.
be able to swim 2,500 yards, be able to ride your bike for 3 hours, be able to run or hike for 90 minutes, right? Like, so they know kind of what they have to show up being able to train for. But we don't care how fast, how slow, how repeat you want to do things, whatever it might be. So I think part of the onus is on me in the communication part on the front end, but then also to deliver as expected. So if I'm making these promises that everyone's welcome, that all abilities are welcome, then I need to make sure those workouts are set up in such a way that people don't feel left behind. I think that is the worst part, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're last.
Mhm.
Uh, but I mean, you and I talking right now, rational brain, we know you can't win a training camp. You
Right.
also, and if you can't win it, you can't lose it, right? There's no way
Right.
to win or lose. But our brains are always going to kind of work in that way. Again, that compare and despair mentality. So some of the things that we like to do is use loop courses, use out and back courses that are short so that people don't really know where they are. So like for example, one of the things we did at our Lake Placid camp, which was super fun, we used to do relay hill repeats. And it was a hill that took maybe 2, 3 minutes to run up depending on your speed, maybe 4 minutes, anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, from the faster athletes to the slower athletes. But no one knew where they were because they were paired up with a relay partner. So at one point you were on the hill, another point you were on a straightaway. One year we had three, and so the stations were like you ran on a flat, you ran up the hill, and then the other part you were in this park and you were doing exercise like functional strength exercises. So everyone's working out. It's a hard workout, but no one has any idea if they're slower or faster because they don't know who's starting, who's finishing. So we try to set up the workouts
Just
such
focus on
that
the.
you don't really know where you are. That's not always possible, right? So like let's talk about Tucson, the Mount Lemon climb. We're going to a point. There's a specific place we're going. So you're going to know whether you're first or you're last, but we set it up right out the get-go. Well, there's an aid station halfway up. You can turn around at any time. You do not actually have to go to the top. And then we also make sure we are there to sag for however long it takes.
Mhm.
So one person did it in a little over 2 hours. Another person took almost 6 hours. We're there for all of it. We're there for the whole thing. So not sort of packing things up while people are coming through and making them feel like, oh my God, I'm last. Oh my God, oh my God. Like really trying to make sure that we build into the workouts a level of feeling comfortable with where you're at, but also making sure that like we're pushing people. Like you're coming to training camp, we're not here to tootle,
Mhm.
right? We're here to work
Right.
out, and because you don't have work stress, you don't have to take care of your kids, you don't have to worry about your dog, you can sleep as much as you want. We're supplying you with food. You've got all the things you need. We're here to work hard. That's it. But you whatever your work hard is going to create a different output than my work hard, but our process is the same, right? We're both working hard. So I think we really try to make sure that we set up the camp experience to limit how much people wind up comparing themselves. Because I think that starts to eat away at people.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's great. First of all, it's work hard. I have a friend who always says work hard, play hard.
yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Work hard, play hard. I feel like the camp experience, it you guys provide the structure.
Hmm.
You can't make people work hard. They have to want to go. Like anything in life, you have to have the discipline. You
Yep.
have to have your why on why you're there. You have to push yourself. A coach can't do the work for you. They're there to encourage you, to teach you, to provide, the structure for it. But at the end of the day, you have to do it. So I feel like
Hmm.
the training camp gives you the structure to learn, to get better, to grow. But then when you're actually within it, like who knows? Like that's the beauty of sports. You
Yep.
can prepare and prepare and prepare. You still never know. That's the magic
Yep.
of it all.
Yep. And
That's
I
where
like
the
to think of like
connections come in, the connections and
yeah. I mean,
the
and that's the thing.
energy, the
Yeah.
energy.
and making sure, like, again, from the leadership standpoint,
Hmm.
making sure you're creating spaces for the campers to connect with each other.
Hmm.
So we'll do an orientation night before there's even a single workout. We'll do an orientation, make sure everyone introduces themselves. And again, our camps are so small
Hmm.
that people can literally meet each other. It's not like there's 50 people and it's like there's no way I'm gonna, and uh
I
so I think
think.
it makes it easier in some ways to make connections. People will often come with at least one buddy too, which helps, like a little safety, which we
Mhm.
recommend, right? If you're coming brand new, come with a friend. And that'll make
Right.
you at least have one person, but you'll leave. If you come with one friend, you're going to leave with 10 more. We even have like our post Tucson, we created a WhatsApp chat for everybody that was at camp, and they still talking there. They're still chit chatting with each other and interacting, and
Amazing.
they know what each other's races are. So when somebody races, they're like, "Hey, how'd it go?" They're cheering on each other for the races. So they really have created their own kind of community there. And for
Hmm.
us, I think it was extra special because we brought together two different coaching companies. So we
Hmm.
brought together two different teams. And I think that was really fun to see the connection between the athletes from the different teams. And like now, for example, even though I'm not in New Jersey anymore, we still have a huge presence in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So we have a lot of athletes doing Eagle Man, and so does Stacy's team. So they're already talking about like, oh, hey, I'll meet you at Eagle Man. I'm going to connect with you at Eagle. So it's really kind of cool to see. So I think my role as the coach is to create the space and then let them do not micromanage what the athletes are doing. Let, let adults connect in the way they want to adult, but you got to create the space. You can't just like not put in some scaffolding, because if you don't, it's hard to make friends as an adult. So you have to kind of make it a little bit easier. You got to like m make it less awkward or make the awkwardness fine. Either way.
I'm just curious, as you're talking, I'm curious, people who train on their, let's just say they train with a coach one-on-one,
Yeah,
or they
sure.
train on their own. Do you think they have as much fun if they don't allow themselves to be in a community?
I think it
Because
depends.
don't you think it's kind of all about community? Like even when you go to the race and you cross the finish line and people are cheering you on,
Yeah.
everybody's different. I get it. Everybody trains differently. We're all wired differently, but I
Yeah.
just think that if you're the type of person who just really likes to just train on your own, like maybe push yourself outside that comfort zone a little bit and
Yeah.
try some type of community
Yeah. And
feeling.
I think it depends, right? Like
Because
I do think most people want a connection with at least another person, right? Like I say most, maybe not. Somebody like this will be like, no, I
well,
hate people.
I know. I mean, everybody's different, and I'm not trying to push that on
Yeah.
anybody. I guess the question I'm trying to ask, like, okay, let's just say you are that type of person, and you're like, I will never do a training camp, and
Yeah.
I'm fine training on my own. I like to go into my pain cave and just, but
Hmm.
maybe the question is like, what lessons from training camps can we carry back into our everyday life? Like maybe it's this whole kind of pushing yourself outside the comfort zone, and maybe the training camp, the value in it is there, the lessons that we can bring into everyday life, like
Yeah. I
how we
think
live within our communities.
one of the main things I see happening to athletes when they come to training camps, whether they've been to training camps or this is their first training camp, is they wind up doing more than they think they can.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
I think
point.
that's probably,
That's the no limits. That's the no
yeah,
limits.
yeah, I think that's a thing to bring back
That's that
into life.
mindset.
That's a
Yeah,
thing to
I'm
bring
glad you made
back.
that point
Yeah.
because
Um,
you probably do push yourself more than you think you can, and that's the value of like being there with other people.
yep. Yep.
I have this question here, and maybe I turned it into a statement, but why do we often become stronger together than we do alone? I think it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Maybe we learn, like we push ourselves more, we
Yeah.
help each other.
Well, and there is, I mean, if we want to
Yeah.
geek out on the academic side here for a second,
Yeah, no,
there
sure.
there is some research on a concept known as the social facilitation effect. Uh,
Oh,
and
okay.
this
Oh,
is basically the idea that we tend to perform better when we know we are being observed.
ah, interesting. Hmm.
And when we're with others, right? Like, so
Mhm.
that's a piece of it too. I mean, obviously this is an entire body of research, so I'm simplifying it into a sentence. You have to, so for all the
Um,
academics listening, yes, I know there's more. You can tell I was in academia for like 20 years. I'm like scarred by the yes, but um, there is
I
always
understand what you're saying.
nuance. There is always nuance.
There are
But
always nuances, and there's always theories that disprove theories.
of course. But there is, I mean, I think there is even anecdotally, right? Like think about races. We show up and on a great day do better than we thought was possible in a race. We can find an extra gear sometimes in a race. Not always. Sometimes there are terrible races that go sideways. You
Mhm.
race long enough, it's not if, it's just when that's going
Right.
to happen. But I do think that when we're at camp, a few things are happening, and it's this social facilitation effect. It's not always about because you're like trying to show off. It's not about that. It's sometimes it's because there's modeling behavior that's demonstrating, oh, well, if she can do it, then I
Mhm.
can do it.
Mhm.
Um, and that might be in terms of skills. So like we do at our triathlon training camps, we do the bike handling skills the very first day. I want to out, in Lake Placid, we were going up and down big hills. In Tucson, we're going up and down a mountain. We're checking the bike skills. We're making sure and you can see it's usually like between an hour to 2 hours, depending on how many people are
Mhm.
at the camp. The beginning of the bike skills, everyone is kind of nervous.
Mhm.
Even the people that are pretty good on their bike, they're kind of
Mhm.
nervous. And then by the end of it, everyone's like doing like, emergency stops, track stands, doing like all kinds of fun stuff on their bike. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that on my bike. I'm like, now you do, right? And some
Yeah.
of it may be just from seeing others do it. Some of it may be the encouragement from the coaches, like, of course you can do this. Like, we're here, we're a safety net, we got you. You may hit the pavement, but it'll be fine. I mean,
You're awesome. I love your energy.
when you're working bike handling skills, falling off your bike does happen. I'm not gonna lie, it does happen. But
And
but
you get
it's
back
it's
up.
also but you're getting back up and you're fine. So I do think um that's a piece of it as
Yeah.
well. So and I also think too, like you're coming to a training camp and you're just getting concentrated training time. People are generally sleeping better, they're generally eating better. That's another really, I think, important ingredient to training camps, um, that we can't always perfectly manifest in our everyday life, but it's a good reminder, like, hey, if you are not getting enough sleep, you can't train.
Mhm.
So try to figure out how in your everyday life you can get more sleep. And so I think that's probably an important thing to bring back as well. The relationships, the connections, a super concentrated block of training, and then ultimately, I think doing something you didn't think you could do. Like
Mhm.
for in the Tucson camp, for example, climbing to the top of Mount Lemmon. In previous trail running camps, we've done 14ers. So I have people. So for your
What does that
audience,
mean?
yeah, I know
14er.
I was going to say what a 14er is. That's what I was just about to explain. So it's a mountain that's above 14,000 feet. So in the US, they're all kind of west of the Mississippi. And there's 58 of them in Colorado. So we have a fairly high concentration of 14ers. Um, and so in previous camps, we've taken people to the top, and they can be, I mean, getting to the top of a 14er. So it's at 14,000 feet. So the air, you're dealing with
Altitude.
very high altitude, um, lots of elevation gain. So some of these 14ers, it's like, you're climbing 4,000 feet to get to the top in about 5 miles.
Mhm.
Round trip might be 7 to 8 miles, depending on which one you pick. Some are 10, some are, I mean, there's also ones that are 20 miles. So I'm not taking people on training camps on the super, and they're classed like 1 through 5, 5 being kind of, you need to be like a legit mountaineer. 1 and 2 are like, you just need to be able to hike. Uh, you don't have to get ropes and helmets. You don't have to climb, you don't have to do any like rock climbing or anything like that for class 1 and 2. So we've done the 14ers, and a lot of times for the athletes who come from like sea level, that is a
That's tough.
huge
That's a
scary
huge
thing.
acclamation. Acclamation?
Huge.
Is that the right
And I
word?
mean, Yeah, yeah, yep. And then if you're even like a little bit scared of heights, these are not, there's sections of even the class 1 and class 2 14ers where if you fall, it's not a good idea to fall. So, I mean,
This is what no limits looks like, people. I mean, this is
yeah.
I mean, you're teaching us like when you push yourself outside your comfort zone, whether it's at a training camp, whether you're going for some goal, whatever goal it is in your life,
Yeah.
you're gonna learn,
Hmm.
you're gonna build new friendships, you're gonna build confidence,
Yeah.
it's all about growth mindset.
But I also think
That's
too, like training camps involve risk, right? Like you're taking
Mhm.
risks emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever.
Right.
But you're also doing it in a way that's probably a little bit more safe and supported than if you did on your own.
Yeah, I agree.
So
There's
so
a
it's a
safety factor
good
to it all too. I
right,
agree.
right. So if you're struggling with trying to do something solo, and that's what your goal requires, right? Like you want to do something
Mhm.
and it requires a solo effort, your intermediary step could be finding a training camp
Right.
that
To get
helps
you there.
normalize some of the things that might be causing anxiety or to teach you the skills you need to be able to do the thing. I think that's probably pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I keep in my mind thinking like, okay, right, the NFL, they have training camps in the summer to
Mhm,
prepare for something. They put these tremendous athletes into these situations where they have to learn from each other. And so
mhm.
I mean, it's a model that obviously in the sports world is used
Yeah.
because it's effective. The key is just for people such as ourselves, like, just taking one step forward and going for it. So
And I think too, if you're trying to pick a training camp, do some research. And
It
also
just
every time,
that was my question to you. How do you well, I have one kind of closing question, but before we do that,
yeah,
how do you find out about training camps? Just in
yeah,
general, just to
yeah.
give
So
people
I
the
mean, I think
opportunity to
yeah, I think a couple ways is if you are a coached athlete, ask your
Mhm.
coach if they do a training camp, because that would be,
Okay.
I think, probably the most obvious. Like if you're being coached by somebody, going to their training camp is probably a great idea. But I can also make a case for going to other coaches' training camps too, to
Yeah.
be and we do send our athletes to other
And
coaches' training camps too,
and
but
don't you think a good coach would encourage you to go out and learn
they
however you
should.
want?
They should.
Right.
They should. But that's one way, right? Is to ask
Okay.
your coach if they have a training camp or if your coach has a pretty good network talking with other coaches, they're going to know other coaches' training camps to
Okay.
recommend. So like I know, like if somebody came to me and they're like, I want to do a training camp in Lake Placid for the race, you aren't doing one anymore. Who can I go to? I already know who I'm going to recommend, right? Like so I know
Okay.
so you can ask your coach as well. I also think a Google search will get it done. You'll find camp because you're probably going to find the registration site in some way, shape, or form. So
Okay.
we run all of our training camps using Run Sign Up to sign up. So you could search on Run Sign Up for clinics and camps. Simple Google search. If somebody is sanctioning their training camp through USA Triathlon, you would find it there. But I think, you know, talking to your coach, talking to other athletes that you're friendly with, and then doing some searching and seeing what pops up, and then doing your research, right? Because depending on where you go or what kind of camp you go to, they're going to have different focus, right? So
Mhm.
one of the things Stacy and I we saw a little bit of a gap in the marketplace for a camp that was really highly focused on skills and endurance. And so we're like, we're going all in on this concept. Whereas there's going to be other camps that are all in on like monster volume, where you're doing like huge volume every day. And if that's what you want, that's that you don't want Stacy and I's camp. You want the volume camp.
What's
Uh,
Stacy's last name? You said
Stacy Miller, Stacy Miller,
Stacy,
Sonic Endurance.
Sonic Endurance, Stacy
Yeah,
Miller.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We'll
That's
have
so
to get her on
cool.
the show.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's give your contact information
Okay.
now, and then I have
Okay.
one final question.
Okay.
Yeah, how do people reach you? Website, contact,
Yeah.
everything.
So our website is nolimitsenDurance.com. My email is maria@nolimitsedurance.com. I'm on Instagram, Mass Life, so MASLIFE. Um, I lucked out that my initials are Moss, so I use it all the time as like a little play on more life. Uh, I recently started a Substack, and I'm kind of excited about that because I used to have a blog for like 10 years, and I took it down because it was like the old athletic identity and I'm not her anymore. So, but I renamed my Substack the same name. So it's Running a Life on Substack. And that was my blog as well. And then, I'm on Facebook, Maria Simone. And then the business stuff is No Limits Endurance. You can find us that way as well.
You're an incredible role model. You really
Oh,
are.
come
No,
on.
you really are. You really are. I mean, you just said something very quickly about that's not my identity anymore. This is where I am. And just to understand that life can be just a progression of
Oh,
learning
Sarah.
and finding yourself and new identities. That's what successful aging is all about.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to gloss over that like it was easy. Uh, Me getting comfortable saying that kind of thing has probably been a 2 to 3 year work in progress. I cannot say that 3 years ago I would have been as comfortable saying that's not really my identity anymore. I
That's
there's
a
a bit
big
of
step.
mourning. There's a bit of mourning and processing that goes in with who you were in your 30s and your 40s and who you're becoming in your 50s and what does that mean? And do I like it or not?
I think that's a real would be an amazing podcast episode, actually. I'd like to have
Oh,
you back on maybe after you have another training camp this summer, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get back on in the fall together.
Okay.
I'd like to have that conversation. I think that's a really important conversation to have. Obviously, my research interests does look at aging, successful aging and longevity and health through physical fitness and whatnot. And I think that's a really important aspect of it. How do you embrace change? Really, because it's inevitable,
It, it,
So
it's
you got to
there's
embrace
nothing,
it,
yeah, I
keep
cannot
moving forward.
control. I cannot control what's happening.
Okay.
Despite my best efforts. I've done it all. I'm lifting heavy, damn it. I'm lifting heavy.
Yeah, I love you. You're great. I'm so glad you came on the show. Okay,
You're
here's my last
you make me
question.
feel I'm gonna have a great rest of my day. This is awesome. I'm gonna go around and be like, Sarah said I'm great, so everyone leave me alone.
You are great. I love your energy. Okay, here's the big question. Or you can actually say whatever you want, really. I don't have to give you a question, but I like this question though. When athletes leave a training camp, what do you hope they can carry home beyond the physical fitness, beyond the actual training? What do you want them to take home with them?
I want them to take home a belief in themselves, a confidence that whatever their goal is going to be hard, but they can do it, and a willingness to continue to take risks and try new things. But belief, curiosity, and determination, I guess, to keep doing
Love it. No limits, guys, girls, everybody,
it.
people, community. No limits. No limits. All right. Hang on one second. I'm going to
Okay.
sign off. Absolute. I just knew this was going to be a great conversation. And
I enjoyed it myself. It was awesome to talk with you. I love conversations like this because as you ask me the questions, it helps me either in some cases question what I believe, like, is that right? Or yeah, that like it really helps solidify my own belief system. So even as it evolves, right? Because it does. So I
well, and I
appreciate the
get,
questions.
oh, thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the show. I get the sense that I have coaches on the show and people on the show, but there's all these impact players out there helping people go after their goals, encouraging people. We hear a lot of times the negativity, the negative energy out in the world. But people such as yourself and so many people on the show are just demonstrating there's so much good work going on.
Mm-hmm.
at this point, moment in time,
Yep.
there's so much positive stuff going on in the world of multi-sport, triathlon, ultra endurance, just coaching,
Hmm.
sports. It's just it's incredible to think about everything that's going on right now out in the universe. And
Hmm.
it's great. Keep up the great work. You inspire all of us. And it's just was a delight to have you on the show. And I can't
Thank
wait
you
to
so
go to
much.
training camp.
Yes, let's talk.
Okay. All right, everybody. There you have it. Now you know why I invited Maria Simone onto the show. I am very intentional about the people I have on the show to teach us and to educate us to live our best lives from the inside out. Always say that, from the inside out, which is really a reference to our physiology and what exercise can do for us on a physiological level. Um, I will continue to bring you voices such as Maria's to just help us all achieve the best lives that we possibly can. All right. Thank you, Maria, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.